Papai, o ka timata ke te tahi karakia, we'll start with the wahi karakia. E hua mai te ora, e hua mai ngā makuri oringa, ko te whare o tāne te rauhihiri o te whakaro, whakarea o mahara, whakaihi o mahara, kia koa, kia hānea nea, kia tau te mauri ora, kia rere te mauri roa, whakaia kauana, whano, hara mai te toke, hui tai ki e. Rere ana ngā whakaro mo ngā mārei kura, mo ngā whatukura, korido atu ki te pōnui, haere whakangaro atu rā koutou kia koutou. O mātou ngā waihotanga e takahi tonu nei, I te ara nau mai, hoki mai e tau nei. Welcome back to everyone to our last session for 2025. I'd just like to introduce our team, our beautiful team, our hapai o. We have Kelly in the background and Lee. Who will be working their magic in the background, as well as Penny from CoLab, the Co-Design Lab, who is our team from Practice Foundation. Would also like to mention Jackie Chan, who has joined our Practice Foundation team and will be doing the illustrations for our 2025 series. Jackie will start her illustration at the end of our session and we'll show it. Full illustration will be shared online in 2 weeks following today. Nau mai hoki mai rā tātou katoa, Kōrero mai. Welcome to everyone to our community. If you're new, if you're not new, welcome back. The purpose of our Practice Foundation is to provide a space for those working in public sector who are working in complex environments to come together with other like-minded people. We'd like to acknowledge that this is a difficult time for many people and would like to encourage and support everyone to take good care of themselves and each other as much as you can. We hope you find coming together today as restorative. We have Kelly, again, in the background that I mentioned, is there. If you have any questions or issues or concerns, please feel free to reach out. We also just wanted to let everyone know that we won't be allowing any bots like Read AI to attend these sessions. This is in order to keep everyone safe in a safe place for people to connect. If you're unable to attend, most of our sessions are recorded and will be watched online. So our purpose or our rhythm today is that we're designing your way to Mana Motuhake through enterprise. This session explores how co-design for enterprise can be a path to whānau prosperity in Mana Motuhake. Pakihi Māori, which is Māori businesses, often blur the lines between commercial and social enterprise, weaving together culture, commerce, creativity and kaitiakitanga for people, place and planet. Kaupapa Māori design offers a powerful way to navigate the space, enabling enterprises and collectives to shape their future and cut their own track. Today's session features Karl Wixon, who will share a journey from muttonbirding to design and enterprise, drawing on his experience supporting Pakihi Māori, including post-settlement governance entities, to design their way to Mana Motuhake. We'll invite you to consider how these approaches can help you and your whānau shape your own future and stand in your own mana. Mohi rā tātou ki katoa ki te rāhuatanga. So together, during this 90-minute session, we will have our typical whakawhanaunga within small breakout groups. Then we will hand it over to Karl to hear from him. And then we'll go back into breakout groups to share some reflection time. We'll then, following that, we'll then come together for wāhi kōrero, wānanga, per se, as a group to share our whakaro. So, for our whakawhanaungatanga group, we've got 10 minutes. Today we'll be hearing from Karl shortly, but I'll introduce the first partai. We've got, for whakawhanaunga. So today we'll be hearing from Karl about the whānau-centered leadership and Mana Motuhake in practice. Before we do, let's ground ourselves in our own views on leadership. What does it sound like? What does it look like? And what does it feel like? In your small groups, take a moment to share one leadership quality you admire and why. So take the time to think about that. I'm going to repeat that again. In your small groups, you're going to take a moment. So, so that you can share that kōrero, and then don't forget to introduce yourselves. So describe a leadership attribute you admire and why. Ka pai? We'll now put you into your breakout groups. Nau mai hoki mai e hoa mā. Ngā ringaringa ngā waiwai o ngā kaupapa katoa o te motu. Hoki mai. Just for those that have jumped on, I'm just going to ask for anyone to, you know, any of the gems. You want to drop any thoughts or any reflections into the chat from your breakout sessions. Do so on the chat forum, the chat box. Would love to hear about the beautiful kōrero that yous all talked about. And then on top of that, if you don't have your camera on, would love to see your beautiful face. I think everyone's back now. Oh, we've still got some people jumping back on, connecting in. Cool. Well, anyway, no mai hoki mai. So here's hoping that you've all got the opportunity to connect with each other in your last breakout group. We're going to ask now. We've got, I'll introduce our next māngai. We have Karl Wixon, he Ngāi Tahu, Ngāti Māmoe, Waitaha, Moriori, Ngāti Toa Rangatira, Ngāti Pākehā. The muttonbirder by whakapapa, industrial designer by training, kaupapa-holic by nature, creative storyteller, strategist, kaiarahi, and a frequent co-design facilitator. He has enough grey hairs to carry the accumulated wisdom of 35 years tackling challenges for Te Ao Māori, one design at a time, whilst constantly evolving Kaupapa Māori practice. A subject he is currently writing a book on. So, ka tukuna te rākau kōrero ki a koe, te tungane e kao. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora no tātou. Tēnā koe tūhene mō tō mihi ki au, ki a tātou. E mihi nui ki te rōpū whakahaere mō tēnei kaupapa nui. Tēnā tātou, haere mai, nau mai e te whānau, nau mai koutou katoa e nā hau e whā. Nau mai tēnei wā o te rere kētanga o te wero, o te raru tō rangapū. E ua ana te noho o te whānau e te utu te noho me te kore mahi. Ko tātou anua, ko tō tātou whānau anaki, te tua papa hei unga mō tātou. Nō reira me pehea tātou e tautoko ai e te whānau kia tū motuhake. Koina te wero kia hoho tātou e tō tātou ake ara ki te mana motuhake. Ma te Pakihi, ma te aua hatanga hoki. Nō reira, nau mai, hara mai, whakatau mai, ko Karl Wixon ahau. Bluff born, Heretaunga raised, now Tāmaki Makaurau resident. So I've gone from the land of titi, teo and koura to the land of fruit and wine. Finish it off with a Jaffa, so I've had to move up to Tāmaki Makaurau to get something sweet. So just for the benefit of those, I'll just relay my opening kōrero in English. So just general mihi to Riri for opening us up and welcoming me in, and to the leadership team there with Kelly and Lee and Jackie, and welcoming to you all from the four winds. And in these kind of really times of change and challenge and political turbulence. So I know many of our whānau are finding it tough. Cost of living, unemployment, what feels like some political attacks. So, and in that space, it's really just ourselves and our whānau we can probably rely on the most, heavily. So really just framing that, I guess, wero around how we support our whānau to stand in their own mana, to stand in their own strength. So that's the challenge I framed for this around designing our way to Mana Motuhake through enterprise. So welcome in, good to sit in this space and time together. So bear with me, I'm going to launch some presentation, which will be the backdrop to my kōrero. and hope that works. All good? Good. Is it? Can I just check with the team? Is that showing, or have you got a black screen?
Black screen currently, but...
Okay, right. So I will try that again by another path. Aroha mai. Let's try that again. Aroha mai. Right, this time. This time. So yeah, as I framed it, that's I guess really the kaupapa and the whittle that I'm wanting to talk about today is this kaupapa of designing your way to Mana Motuhake, or particularly whānau Mana Motuhake through enterprise. So I feel at least I'm kind of quite honoured to be invited back again. I think this is my third or fourth Practice Foundations session, so it's really good to be back amongst everybody. And I guess as we start to approach the end of this calendar year, it's a bit like Mātariki in that it's, it starts to become a time to reflect on the year past and to start to think about and plan and project the year forward. And in doing that, I guess thinking about this past year, or what have we learned about the past year or two, it's probably, I guess, this environment where some of what I'd consider the social and economic infrastructure we've sort of become accustomed to, never quite taken for granted, but have been able to rely on to some extent, is feeling like it's been eroded and disappearing from out under our feet. And so it has raised questions about how do we navigate through that now? How do we do things differently? So that's been a recurring sort of kōrero within Te Ao Māori, I think, over this last year. And it was, a point made, I think, quite loudly by our Te Araki Nui Koini Ngā Waihonua Te Pō at her speech at the Koro Neihana. And she issued this whittle really about, I guess, trying to move from a grievance to a growth mindset, trying to be more deterministic about finding our own direction or finding new directions in order to be able to find that level of transformational change and a mana motuhake, being confident in ourselves, being confident in our own culture, being unwavering in our own pursuits, despite what might feel like obstruction and turbulence and everything else around us. So for me, I guess you can look up Mana Motuhake in a dictionary, or and you can have kōrero about it. So I'm framing it from my point of view in terms of the notion of being able to stand in your own mana with confidence and conviction and determine your own destiny, and to be able to live in accordance with your own values, your own tikanga for you and your whānau, but also actually for a lot of the mahi that you all do, that we all do, asking that question about how do we help whānau, how do we help others also navigate towards that, or to stand in their own mana, in the way we do things, in the way we support them, and what we foster and catalyse and stimulate and facilitate along the way with them. So for me, I guess my touchstone on that kaupapa was that being born in Bluff into a muttonbirding whānau, which I'd describe as an intergenerational whānau enterprise. It's hundreds of years old, so a fairly unbroken cultural enterprise of our own economic system, an enterprise that has always been and still remains part of a tribal economy, but I'd refer to, I guess it was an economy of koha and tau utu, of initially of gifting and reciprocity and exchange, but it was our currency. The titi is our whānau currency, and since the late 19th century, that became a cash economy. So I've got some really cool records of my great-great-grandfather in the 1920s who had a little ledger with all the supplies he was ordering and gathering to take down to the island for for 2 months, and on the right-hand column was how many titi he owed for those supplies. So it literally was the currency that he paid for all of his provisions with. For us as a whānau, that meant jumping out of school for 2 months every year and going down onto our whenua with our whānau and engaging on our terms, in our place, on our whenua, with our own tikanga and kawa as a whānau. So we did that for 2 months every year, really off the grid. Built our own whare, cut our own tracks, like most people who are engaged in mahinga kai or mahi whenua understand. And we worked as a whānau and as a community. So on those islands, everyone is a kaimahi, whether you're 5 years old or 90 years old. Everyone has a job, whether it was kids collecting firewood or keeping the coal. We had a coal range, keeping a coal range burning, or catching fish to feed everyone on the island, or plucking birds, doing the de-waxing. So for those of you who don't know, you might know waxing studios. We have our own waxing studio for titi. So after they've been plucked, they get dipped in hot wax, which we peel off to remove all the feathers from those titi. But anyway, so with that as a annual 2 month a year practice, you really learn the value of planning. If you're going to live 2 months off the grid, you need to have all your provisions there. You need to know how to live lean. You build your own whare. That's our photo of the island there with those little whare houses, the green one there. We were the first one to have hot running water on the island, or wetback off the old coal range. That whare was built in the early 1970s. Nobody's checking for building consents. So you really are quite self-sufficient. But I would say self-sufficient's a funny word, because I'm saying self-sufficient as a community, not as an individual. So I think that's the other thing for me is sort of the place breeds hard work and enterprise, because it's certainly one of those practices where reward is directly commensurate with effort. You get out what you put in. So if you become a gun birder, you know how to work quick, work hard, work smart, become really efficient and effective at your processes, then the reward is greater. And that's a whole whānau endeavour. So the whole thing needs to work. And there, for me, Mana Motuhake and whānau rangatiratanga isn't self-determination. It is a model of interdependence as a whānau and as a community. So it is a place that breeds that kind of hard work and enterprise, whānau interdependent self-reliance, because mutton birders can't hold down salaried jobs for some reason. They keep bailing every year for a couple of months. So most of the birders I know are enterprising. They've had to work out how to build income and careers and lifestyles around the fact they disappear off to an island for 2 months every year. So it breeds other enterprise outside of the practice too. So my father was one of those. He passed away some years ago, actually on the island at the end of a season, but he, in his 71 years, he'd done 65 seasons birding, and he'd learnt how to build his life around it. So he did everything from being a builder to having an agricultural spraying business to inventing products to build a small enterprise off to fill up the rest of that time. So what it breeds is, I guess, is that self-reliance, but also you learn the value of cutting your own track. I say that metaphorically and literally, because when you're exploring birding ground, you soon learn that the best ground is where others have not been. Whether it's enterprise or gold mining or new business, that if you want better rewards, you put in the hard work to cut your own track, not follow. So majority of mutton birders I know are like that. But also I just say, when I look at these pictures, what it says to me is the basics of life, the ability to put kai on the table, build a shelter over your own head, function as a whānau, intrinsic to it. So, and those are skills that you carry beyond into life. So not only did we build our whare on the Muttonbird Island, while I was growing up. We built 2 whānau whares with my father, and the lower image one there you see was me many years later, bought whenua just along from my parents. And as a qualified designer, I had the ability to design my own house and build it with my father. So we literally put kai on our table, build our own whare, build our own enterprise. And there's something, I find there's something really extremely primal and satisfying about being able to exercise those basics, being able to put kai on the table, build a shelter over your head, and provide for your whānau. So for me, that's what Mana Motuhake or whānau rangatiratanga is about. I'm now 25 years in running my own business that has fed whānau, built whare, and modelled for our kids what Mana Motuhake looks like for the next gen. So they're now cutting their own tracks. But I'd say the blueprint is in our whakapapa. It's in our DNA. It's in our āhua as Māori, and it's deeply embedded in our history, our legacy, and our story. So I had the privilege through my mahi with the NZ Story program over some years to build the Māori story, working with a range of really innovative exporting Pakihi Māori enterprises and businesses. And I'm spending time with them all and working with many of them as well to help them build some of their growth and development. I went through and wove all the threads of the recurring attributes and kōrero and whakaaro and character of them, and this was a resultant simplistic story of a truth across them all. So it was an opportunity to kind of really dig into going, what is it about our Pakihi Māori that makes them unique, that gives them an edge, that makes them more than just being about commerce and profit. And we pulled that together with a range of mātanga across those enterprises into a story which I will share with you now.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Welcome.
Who are Māori? We're Māori.
Māori are the indigenous people of Aotearoa.
We are tangata whenua, which means we are the people of the land.
Which guides our connection to Papatūānuku, our Mother Earth.
The natural world guides us in everything we do.
It drives us to make a difference in the world.
Our tupuna, our ancestors, traversed the great Pacific Ocean with fearlessness.
The way they made it here required science, technology, innovation, astronomy, astrology.
We are voyagers, navigators, innovators, and also educators.
We've always been people that want to find the next horizon.
And this requires a high level of curiosity.
We had to be creative, and we bring that through into our businesses.
Māori are driven by entrepreneurship, by breaking ground on how to do things differently.
Innovation is about new ways of solving problems, and Māori are expert at solving problems.
And we are ambitious and bold. We think outside the box and then just get on with it.
We're very sort of push the boundary type people.
When engaging with Māori, you can expect to connect and bond over shared values.
The way we live and work is informed by our indigenous Māori culture and values.
And we apply the principle of manaakitanga.
For Māori, that is the most important thing, is to host people, to look after people.
You end up building values-based businesses where it's really important to do the right thing.
Kanohi ki kanohi. Face to face. That's the specialty of Māori.
As Māori, we don't look for customers. We look for partners.
It's not just a handshake deal. It's a partnership built on trust.
It's about a connection and a relationship that's far deeper than just business.
Doing business with Māori is just absolutely wonderful. It's respect and trust-based first.
Where we are always looking to find our connection.
We have a duty of care to our people and to our place and to our business partners.
This is about what we can do today to make a positive change for our future.
And that comes from a word in Māori we call kaitiakitanga.
Which is good for business, good for Aotearoa, and good for the world.
The Māori are putting well-being at the heart of what it means to be creating a prosperous nation.
We intend to have intergenerational relationships.
We don't have a 5-year plan. We have a 500-year plan.
It's not just about bottom line, but it's about that connection and reciprocity.
It's about how you can be special and help your people.
It's about wanting to leave a positive legacy. The Māori economy is dynamic. There's so much opportunity.
Māori are great at agribusiness, but that's just the tip of the iceberg.
There are new opportunities in property, investment, scientific research.
In gaming, technology, film.
It is exciting, it's invigorating, it's about we and not I.
We offer a unique perspective to the world.
That's what makes us special and different from every other country.
As long as this country stands up, Māori will stand with it.
Neke mai, no mai ki te ao Māori. Welcome, come and join us, meet us.
Yeah, so it was awesome to have the opportunity to work with all those Pākehā and help weave all that story together. In case you're wondering, none of it was scripted. It was prompted conversations and free flow kōrero that we then theme mapped and curated all together into that singular cohesive story. But I think underlying that, and I've pulled out a couple of particular Pakihi Māori here I want to touch on as demonstrators that I've worked with a bit more directly, just to sort of talk about those points. So these two here, Tessa Davis at Mamaku Skin, not sure if she could be online here at all, if not, Kōrero mai e tuahine, and Helen Paul Smith of Oku. I've worked with, we've been part of a group looking at building a global Māori mark for sustainability. But both of these Pākehā do way more than building enterprises for profit. They're building enterprises for purpose, enterprises that employ whānau, breed whānau innovation, while staying true to our cultural identity and values. In fact, more than holding true to that, it is their superpower, and it is their point of market difference. It is their value proposition. It is why customers and consumers choose their products. And in both cases, their products draw on mātauranga Māori and nature's rongo to promote well-being. But they don't just extract our tonga from the ngāhere. They're also both into regenerative practices. So sustainability, social responsibility, all those lovely things that corporates like to talk about and struggle to do, they do by nature and do by whakapapa. It's just integral to their business. So they're not just focused on the well-being of their whānau, they're also uplifting whakapapa and culture as well, and using the opportunity to contribute to the healing of papatūānuku. So coupled with actually, in both cases, science coming into the picture, that also helps inform that regenerative approach. So I won't go too much into their stories. If you want to, I've tagged there. They both actually feature on the series Homeland and Sea on Māori Plus. So they're there. Their stories are there to view online if you want to go and have a look. But I can tell you that awesome. They're two of many I've worked with. I also worked on the development of the Tuku Māori Winemakers Collective for export, a collective of Māori wine producers. Very, very similar stories. So, and all quite uncompromising in terms of their cultural tūāpapa. So why am I bringing this kaupapa to you and this audience and this group? I guess most, if not all of you, are in the business of supporting and uplifting whānau in one way or another. And I guess in public sector, that tends to be more focused on the spaces of an equity, where we end up in the deficit end of the scale. And that's really, really important. Mahi, I've spent about 30 years too tackling that stuff, spaces of inequity. But I've also really deliberately, for my own sanity as much as anything else, and my own aspirations, been deliberate in investing time on enterprise and economic development as well as the uplifting dynamic. So one, we can lift people up. One, we can draw and compel people forward and up. So I find the balance of being able to work across those spaces is quite rewarding. And the more time I've spent in tackling, I guess, the spaces on inequity, the more you keep thinking about the source and the systemic issues and the challenges and what will turn it. And if it's things like education, employment, and enterprise, then how do we really stimulate and build that up? Because in doing that, when they're on that path, the oranga increases, the ability to be self-sufficient increases, and we start to be able to lift people up. So, but here's the thing. The approach to that is no different. So if you're in the practice of co-design facilitation, whānau voice mahi, insight work, design thinking, human-centered design, then you are already in the practice of building these sorts of enterprises. It's the same processes. I don't differentiate the processes I use for tackling justice and health and education take are the same processes I run in the door to working with enterprises and communities on economic development kaupapa. So the sort of stuff I learnt when some years ago when I became a design integration coach for NZTE's Better by Design program working with exporters. The same approach there is just, we transferred across into whānau order, but we fettled and tuned it in terms of tikanga and Kaupapa Māori, but it equally goes the other way. So particularly where those Māori, when we start to really dig into Māori models that tend to traverse the boundaries better, and ones that are anchored in nature's blueprint, such as in Kōrero timatanga. So for me, this is what I'm delving in deep into at the moment, but Kōrero timatanga, our creation stories are creative processes. They are nature's blueprint. So whether it's moving from te kore into te pō, into te whaia, into te ao marama, there is nature's creative process, creation process and blueprint there. In the case of some of you will be familiar or from Tōkona Te Raki down in Ōtautahi, our Ngāi Tahu Tribal Social Innovation Lab that does this kind of mahi and their model Te Kore Koreka, similar thing, which was framed around kōrero of Matia Tera Moriori, who uplifted this kōrero in a time of despair and darkness in the hope that it would guide and uplift people towards the light. So these models don't change because this is universe creation blueprint, plant growth cycle blueprint. It's the blueprint for iwi hapu whānau whenua of birth, life, death, and renewal. It is the perpetual cyclic model that can occur in 1 hour, 1 day, a year, multiple years, and never changes. So, but I use those approaches with working with enterprises, but instead of just internal insight work, we're doing market insight work, for instance, but the same process. But also when you start to look at it in a Pakihi context, how do you really, all of these Pakihi that were featured in that NZ story video, I would say are quite kaupapa driven. They're really driven by purpose and cause and kaupapa. So the question is, if you put kaupapa in the heart, how do you build and wrap your enterprise around that? So this is a model I use for working with enterprises to kind of go every touch point, every dimension needs to give life to that kaupapa. So whether it's the way we ground ourselves in our identity, our values, whakapapa pūrākau that turns up in your brands, your stories, how that is built into the people you employ, engage with, how that turns up in your strategy, your approach, how you do and deliver things. Also then in what you offer and how you offer it and how you behave in market. So those are all things we can design, right? And I won't dwell on this, but I've worked with enough of these enterprises to kind of map in a more granular level, more alongside some of those enterprise development conventions, how that sort of works, but within a uniquely Māori way. But I guess I also think about that in the context of Of getting there, the type of leadership. So you had the opportunity earlier to reflect on leadership attributes you admire, and so I'm talking here also about rangatiratanga. What does it mean to be a rangatira? And you can see a range of things there. I've sort of jotted. For me, I'm a little hoha when the waving of that flag just stands for stubborn independence and very self-centered determination, which is different from the concept of a rangatira, of the weaving together the rōpū of a servant leadership model of being able to be a provider, the measure of your mana as a rangatira, your ability to be a provider, how you act as a kaitiaki for that tera, the navigator, self-determination as a capacity for everyone, but also that sort of ethical servant leadership, how we lead with being tika and pono and with aroha. So for me, all those things go hand in hand. If we can exercise rangatiratanga and build whānau ohanga, it delivers whānau oranga and delivers mana motuhake, the ability to stand in your own mana. Anō reira, yeah, I think that's me.
Tēnā koe, Karl.
Like taper, stand clear. Stop share.
Tēnā koe, Karl, yeah, rā kōrero, kāmatu, yeah, hihiri ana, yeah, te āhuatanga I tēnei taima e whakarongo ana ki a koe. Awesome, kōrero. We're now going to give everyone an opportunity to share some takeaways from Karl's kōrero. Welcome back. He's hoping that the questions were were posed to everyone, and he's hoping you've seen them in the chat forum if you didn't manage to hear it, but you saw it on the chat forum and had a good chat about what takeaways you got out of Karl's kōrero, and how was it applied, or how could you apply it? If you've got any gems, and no doubt you all do, if I can get you to, we'll give you about a minute or two just to jot those down in the chat, for us to have a kōrero. This is our time for us all to share kōrero amongst ourselves and pose questions to Karl. This is the best time and opportunity to pose any questions that you have regarding Karl's kōrero earlier. Please jot it down in the chat forum or unmute yourself if you want to ask the question to Karl. Pai tū pai hinga e homa. Don't be shy. To volunteer is to be Māori, to be Māori is to volunteer.
Karl, Iwini wants to know how he can get hold of some of your sweet titi.
The inevitable pātai, ne? Yeah, well, you know the time of the year, the titi have only been on our motu for about probably 4 to 6 weeks. So once they've nested and hatched, you'll be up for the next round. But you know, they disappear pretty quickly, those buckets of titi. So there's not too many people hanging on to any still for sale. You need to be on point mid-May.
Has anyone got any other pātai that you'd like to pose to Karl?
Kia ora, Karl. Well, I was in a Minas group with Sandini, Samara's listening, and Amber. We just had this question around the context of, well, firstly, thank you for your kōrero. It was so beautiful. And one of the things we were talking about in the group was how you're describing, you know, a te ao Māori approach to some of our most complex problems. If it's innate, then it's doing all of the things, at the same time. It's looking after papatuanuku, it's trying to look after whānau, it's trying to look after, you know, our tikanga, etc. And so there's like, you know, Sasha making talks about, I think, complex causation, where you have this, you have a te ao Māori approach, it has all of these beautiful outcomes and enduring outcomes that often aren't captured. And we were just talking about the importance of that and the way that, you know, we're operating, particularly, I'll just talk particularly from central and local government, about how we create the spaces for those approaches to be valued and to be held in their entirety. So one of the tensions Amber was talking about was often it feels like when you're operating in that system, it's an either or. It's either a Kaupapa Māori approach or it's a Western-driven science approach. And yeah, that binary approach isn't working for us. So what could you share with us about how we create spaces that sort of disperse that binary notion of it's either this one or it's either that one?
The perpetual challenge. So yeah, firstly, declare yourself as non-binary. That's a good start. And I mean, it's encountered again and again and again and again, right? And particularly within public sector, because we've basically got a public sector infrastructure structuring sensibilities and Western framing of everything that sets up the binary models. So we were talking about this earlier about the sort of, this is all enterprise, whether it's commercial or social, or you could argue environmental. And we have the same challenge, and I've talked about this often, the challenge within sort of even our sort of design models, where we had the emergence of design thinking, which was primarily focused on commercial development and an extractive insight gathering process. And then off the back of it, a few other things were spawned, like human-centered design. Human-centered design is bereft of an environmental focus. You know, Tim Brown and IDEO went, oh fuck, at some point, and developed circular design to address the deficiency and come out with an environmentally focused circular design model. They're still all segregated silos. So I'm not a subscriber to any of them. There is good stuff in all of them, but none of them are the right model. So hence why I've leaned into those Ao Māori models as the starting point, because they don't delineate and separate. Even if we're talking about drawing on Mātauranga Māori, it's a knowledge system. It's not you know, I don't like translating Mātauranga as Māori knowledge. No, it's a knowledge system, because it's about a whole series of interconnected pieces of knowledge that only make sense in the collective. Kaiwaironga, kaiwairaro. You know, you make sense of things in a connective, collective system. So unless we're starting from that as our starting place, and we just take for granted that we're working within the silos that have been cast for us to function in, we never quite get there. And so, yeah, it is a challenge. So for me, how do you tackle it? Declare it, call it out at the beginning, and try and create discrete space, and give notice that you're going to be challenging the boundaries. So don't accept the constraints that are put on you. So I'm doing this repeatedly. You know, even whānau Ora years ago, in its early stages, basically said, hey, guys, innovate, come up with ideas for how we can improve whānau wellbeing, and pitch your growth innovation pilot projects to us. And we did. And we pitched and pitched and pitched. And then after a wee while, it turned around and they came back and said, oh, look, sorry, for some of you are focusing on education and employment, and no, that's not within this kaupapa. You need to, we won't fund those initiatives. All right, because it wasn't in their wheelhouse and it was a different agency. So even what seemed like a liberating kaupapa suddenly got constrained when whānau were going, well, no, we can't build whānau wellbeing without talking about economy and employment and education, you know. So stop carving us up. We don't match your siloed agencies. So I think it is a very real constraint and challenge. But also, hey, for me, then you step outside of that space to wānanga this stuff, and then you roll back in the door, declare your positionality, declare your rub, if you're rubbing things up the wrong way, and trust that eventually the rub will craft. You know, I was at a whakatauki from Tātipini he mahi kai takata, he mahi kai hoaka. And it was a reference to how the hoaka, the sandstone, grinds away at the pounamu. You might think the hoaka is the soft stone and the pounamu is the hard stone, but the hoaka has the little quartz granules in it. So persevere, grind away. The soft stone shapes the hard stone. So persevere, grind away, rub the wrong way. You just got to keep being prepared to push and test those boundaries. Don't accept the silo.
Mihi atu ki a koe e te rangatira, Karl. Awesome, loved your kōrero, and you're probably related to my husband because he's a Ryan from Motupohu, so it was so cool to listen to your or your whakaaro and what you're doing, and how do we get in contact with you? What's the best way?
I'll stick my email in the chat, eh?
Ngā mihi, that'd be real cool. Yeah, awesome, ngā mihi.
Yeah, my cousin Gina Rye is one of those queen bees at Te Rauaroha.
Oh, she's the boss. She's the boss. She's the marae kura at that marae. I love your marae. It's so beautiful. Te Rauaroha, eh? It's the best.
Aye.
It really is. Yeah, I love it.
Anyone else want to share some good gems from the kōrero that you've had amongst yourselves in your breakout groups? Anything small, big? Any shares? Well, Paula, you got anything? Surely.
Paula said to me the other day, we've got to mold them like clay. And they're just, you know, because we work for a non-Māori organisation, and she said, we'll just have that clay and make it all beautiful in time. It's just going to take time. And stand in our Mana Motuhake. Exactly.
Tēnā koe, beautiful. It's lovely to hear. Hey, breath of fresh air. Anyone else? Any other pātai? We've got Karl, maybe some examples of where to start. We talked about our taikamariki. You got any whakaaro there?
Yeah, well, I think that's often the challenge, right? I mean, we've got a few things. We've got a lot of whānau have been trapped in intergenerational dependence. The capacity for independence has been eroded. Even potentially the bandwidth to think like this or have self-confidence, an aspiration of self-reliance can often be eroded. So, for me, the first thing is how you flip the script, which is exactly what Te Ariki Nui Kuini Ngā Waihono Te Pō did at the Koroneihana, flipped the script, got away from the victimhood grievance kōrero into Mana Motuhake, cut your own track kind of āhua kōrero. So, when I was growing up, both my parents, neither of them finished school, even school C, but part of household conversation was like when you get your degree. It was just normalized. So, we didn't think we'd do anything else. In my generation, when I talk to my kids, it's been about when you start your business. And so, and they've all been enterprising, right? Either done really well in young enterprise through school, all that kind of stuff. So seizing those opportunities. The other thing is, I think just having a line of sight to role models and exemplars that actually illustrate and demonstrate and build that self-belief and aspiration. So, I had this kōrero with a group of kaiako from Māori medium education about where do you start with some of these kids. And I talked about, I guess, attitude, aptitude, and altitude. So how do you foster their natural aptitudes? Like give them the pursue their own, whatever they're good at, because that's a path to enterprise. Altitude, how do you lift the aspirational thinking? What's the level of their aspiration? Because if the level of aspiration is, maybe you could finish school, or you could possibly get a job, well, then when the aspiration is not high enough. All right, so what is the household kōrero that we're normalizing that actually flips the script? And what did I say? Aptitude, altitude, and attitude. It's kind of like the I can. Yeah. So most kids have I can spirit by default. They learn not to. You know, it's like even when I was teaching in design school, I'd get rangatahi going, oh, I can't draw. And I go, shit, I bet when you were 2 or 3, if somebody handed you a crayon, you could draw. You didn't believe you couldn't.
Yeah.
So what's the problem now? You know, so yeah, I think, but that line of sight thing, one thing I sort of did with my own kids was we've just fueled their interest. So like when my boy at primary school was suddenly decided he was into aviation and loved planes and all this kind of stuff, and decided he wanted to be a plane designer. And we actually emailed we Googled and found and emailed the head of design at Boeing, and lo and behold, the guy replied and started a dialogue with my primary school kid, the head of design at Boeing. So, you know, sometimes it's just actually join the dots, make the connection, lift the aspiration, elevation, field of view, all of that stuff. And yeah, but it takes the flipping the script. But I think of that stuff, and that's all imminently doable. That doesn't cost anything. And it's within your own ability to do.
Beautiful.
That's why I do have a question actually, around what you perceive the economic landscape for Māori entrepreneurs, for Pakihi, what that looks like for them with the advent and the increasing usage of AI in the workplace.
Ooh. Well, I think 2 things. One is it's going to drive the need. So, I mean, and as in if there's stuff it's going to displace. And so what we get within Te Ao Māori, and this isn't necessarily a good thing because it's a low success rate, is entrepreneurs of necessity, more so than entrepreneurs of opportunity. So I say entrepreneurs of necessity. I don't have a job, or I've lost my job. I can't afford to put kai on the table. I've got to do something. Oh shit! I've got a kayak in a river. I could run some kayak tours. Right, so it hasn't been a market-driven opportunity. It's been what can I do out of necessity to make $1. So it does breed some enterprise habits, but they're generally not sustainable enterprises, nor particularly fruitful ones. So I guess to me the bigger challenge is actually the enterprise of opportunity, which to be blunt, if I go back to my original industrial designer training, design some sexy stuff to sell more to people because you're meeting some kind of unmet need through delivering something they want or need. It's the same with any enterprise. If you can find a problem that you think you can fix with a solution, or that nobody has even tried to tackle, that's probably an enterprise opportunity. So, I think about AI in that regard, and there is probably rapidly emerging opportunities if you can see where it is at play and what it might miss or what it might enable. But, you've got to have a fair degree of confidence and savvy to do that. And I guess at the moment, there's a real tempering device on that, which is the reality of questions and concerns about, tiakitanga. How are we protecting and safeguarding our cultural and intellectual property and engaging? That's for me, that was why I was really slow to engage, because I didn't understand how to assure, tiakitanga te tuatahi.
And that's the beauty of it, is that we have foresight to do that. We have, I'll let everyone know that we are planning a session for 2026 to come back with Karl on that kōrero, so that's to be continued. But I did want to just mention, thank you everyone for jumping on our last session for 2025, and also to you, Karl. Wau kōrero I tāna kirunga i amata I te rangi nei, he kura paunamu o tātou katoa ngā kei whakarongo. Yes, I just wanted to, I can't thank you enough, Karl, for planting the seed for those that, that probably don't see it this way, but have now seen the light in terms of this whakaro. But love every moment, every kōrero that you've shared with us today. Can't thank you enough. We're about to close our session off for today, but yeah, just can't thank you enough, Carl. Also, just wanted to give a moment for Jackie to show an illustration of what she's got to do this hour, and it'll be shared again in another 2 weeks' time completed. It'll be just a quick one. You should get that through. So once that's completed, Jackie, which you'll be finding that very shortly. There you go.
Sorry, I'm having a few hiccups. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. Everyone can wait for another 2 weeks to see to see a snapshot of it. There we go. Beautiful.
Something.
Yep, no, that's great. Thank you very much for that, Jackie. Wonderful kōrero, wonderful capturing of the kōrero from today. We just also wanted to please share feedback on the session, on what you did like, what you didn't like, and I just if you can please. So this is the last session. Kelly's going to drop the link for a very short survey in the chat. Would love to hear from you about this Practice Foundation series. So if you can please share a moment to give us some kōrero so that we can provide some good kōrero for 2026. If you have any ideas or kaupapa, please jot that down in the chat forum now. But for now, thank you everyone, and we wish you all a great holiday during the Christmas period, as we won't see you till the following year, 2026. But e mihi ana, kia tātou katoa. Ka tuku atu ki te rākau, te wahi karakia kia tātou kia unuhia ngā kōrero. Ko te tapu wene kōrero ka whakairi ake ki te pātu o tō tātou whare, ki i o ngā whare, kia tēkena anō ai a tōna wā, te tūturu kia pūmau, tūturu whakamaua kia tina, haumie, huie, kai tie.